Now to Iran, where several people have been killed during clashes between protesters and security forces in the west of the country. That's according to an Iranian news agency. Authorities say a volunteer member of the Revolutionary Guard was also killed as the unrest escalates. Protesters have been growing in recent days, fueled by anger over runaway inflation. Demonstrations that began in the capital Tehran have now spread to other regions. These images show protesters trying to break into a government building in the southwestern province of Fars. Farzan Sabet is managing researcher of the Sanctions and Sustainable Peace Hub at the Geneva Graduate Institute. Welcome to DW. This is a peculiar position for Iran's leaders. They're in an odd position, blaming the unrest on what they say are outside enemies, while at the same time reassuring protesters that they will listen to their concerns. What's your view of the mix of domestic problem and external pressure?
So, yes, thank you very much for having me on. Certainly, the immediate trigger for the protest was a rapid depreciation of the Iranian rial brought about by U.S. sanctions going back several years. However, the kind of broader problems that protesters are going into the streets about and calling for the overthrow of the Islamic Republic have to do with ultimately the Islamic Republic's mismanagement of the country. And its inability to deliver on basic issues, whether it's social freedoms, political freedoms, and very importantly, the economy.
So this is this sort of one thing leading to another? Protests about the economy just escalating into saying, well, we wouldn't be in this mess had you run this country properly in the first place?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not the first time. If we go back 8 years, we've had 3 other mass demonstrations happening in the country, and the slogans are very similar. Oftentimes, it'll start with one triggering issue, whether it's something like the economy or like the hijab issue, but it quickly escalates into specific calls for the overthrow of Iran's leader, or the Islamic Republic's leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and the overthrow of the Islamic Republic, and having to do with the Islamic Republic's priorities, as well as mismanagement and misgovernance of the country.
Amongst these calls for the overthrow of the regime, we've seen videos of people calling for the return of the monarchy and the return of Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last Shah. How significant are those calls, and what does it tell us about public frustration?
Well, what we do know is that certainly a subset of protesters are engaging in slogans that are calling for the return of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. I think that it's certainly significant because in the last 3 or 4 similar protests that we've had, there was no clear leader figure, whereas one has emerged. I will say that while some of the protesters may specifically want the return of the monarchy, other protesters are simply calling for his leadership as a transitional figure. What the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi himself has said is that he wants to be a transitional figure and hold a referendum to let Iranians decide whether they want a constitutional monarchy or a democratic republic. So calls for his leadership certainly point to the absence of other alternatives for Iranians, and him emerging as the kind of clear frontrunner in the oppositions. At the same time, while some may want a restoration of the monarchy, others may want simply his leadership for a transition.
So what sort of moment is this for Iran's theocratic regime? Is this a tipping point, or is this just another blip along the way which they'll batter their way out of?
I think in a sense it's both, right? If we look at other mass demonstrations in the Islamic Republic going all the way back to the 2009 Green Movement, the Islamic Republic has successfully repressed all of them simply because unarmed, disorganized protesters in many, not only in Iran, in many places will have difficulty taking on a well-organized, well-disciplined, prepared, ideologically motivated regime. At the same time, this is 6 months after the 12-day war with Israel. The Islamic Republic said that the people and society were staunchly behind it. What this shows is that that may not, in fact, be the case, and points to further and potentially growing instability moving forward.
Thanks for guiding us through that, Farzan. Farzan Sabet from the Geneva Graduate Institute.
Thank you, my pleasure.